3 weeks passed. The teenagers came to the shop every day after school and worked until 6. On weekends, they came in the morning and stayed until afternoon. They were learning fast. Jimin taught them brake repairs, tire changes, chain adjustments, and carburetor cleaning. She taught them how to diagnose problems by listening to engine sounds. She taught them how to read repair manuals and follow technical specifications. But more importantly, she taught them patience. She taught them that mistakes were part of learning as long as you learned from them. She taught them to take pride in their work. The shop started to get busier. Word spread that Jimin had apprentices now. People were curious. Some came just to see the teenagers who used to cause trouble now working hard and learning. And when they came, they stayed to get their motorcycles serviced. Jimin started making enough money to pay the rent on time. She even had a little bit left over to save. It was not much, but it was more than she had before. The teenagers changed too. They stopped being defensive and angry all the time. They started to care about their work. They helped each other when someone struggled with a difficult repair. They celebrated when someone completed a task successfully. But not everything was smooth. One afternoon in the 4th week, Minho's father came to the shop. He was a tall man in an expensive suit, driving an expensive car. He looked at the shop with distaste. "Minho," he called out, "we need to talk, now." Minho was in the middle of adjusting a motorcycle suspension. His hands were covered in grease. "I am working, Dad. Can it wait?" "No, it cannot wait. Come here." Minho wiped his hands on a rag and walked over. The other teenagers pretended to keep working, but everyone was listening. "What is this?" his father demanded. "You have been coming here for a month, working like a common laborer, getting dirty. This is not what we discussed." "We did not discuss anything," Minho said. "You just told me what you wanted me to do. You never asked me what I wanted. What you want does not matter. You are my son, you have responsibilities. You will attend business school next year and learn to manage our properties. This motorcycle nonsense needs to stop." "It is not nonsense," Minho said. His voice was getting louder. "I am learning real skills. I am good at this. For the first time in my life, I am actually good at something. You are wasting your time and embarrassing the family. I am giving you a choice. Stop this immediately and focus on your future, or I will cut off your allowance and your college fund. You will get nothing from me." The shop went completely silent. Everyone stopped pretending to work. Minho looked at his father. Then he looked at the motorcycle he had been working on. Then he looked at Jimin, who was watching quietly. "Okay," Minho said. His father smiled. "Good. I knew you would see reason." "No," Minho said. "I mean, okay. Cut me off. I am not quitting." His father's smile disappeared. "What did you say?" "I am not quitting the shop. If that means you cut me off, then do it. I do not care anymore." "You do not care? Do you know what you are giving up? Your education? Your future? Your inheritance?" "I am not giving up my future," Minho said. "I am choosing it. You never asked me what I wanted. You just assumed I would follow your plan. But I do not want your plan. I want this." His father's face turned red. "You are being a foolish child. You think you can survive without my money? You think this shop will take care of you?" "I do not know," Minho admitted. "But I would rather try and fail than spend my whole life doing something I hate just because you told me to." His father stared at him. Then he turned to Jimin. "This is your fault. You put these ideas in his head. You convinced him to throw away his future." Jimin stepped forward. "Sir, I did not convince your son of anything. I just gave him a chance to discover what he was capable of. What he does with that is his choice, not mine and not yours. How dare you speak to me about my son? With respect, sir, you are speaking about him like he is your property. He is a person. He has his own dreams and talents. Maybe instead of telling him what to do, you should try listening to him." Minho's father looked like he wanted to explode, but instead he just turned to Minho. "You have until the end of the week to come to your senses. After that, you are on your own." He got in his car and drove away fast, leaving tire marks on the pavement. Minho stood there breathing hard. His hands were shaking. The other teenagers came over to him. "That was intense," Taeyang said. "Are you okay?" Sora asked. Minho nodded slowly. "Yeah, actually I think I am. For the first time in a long time I stood up for something I actually care about." Jimin put a hand on his shoulder. "That took real courage. I am proud of you." "What am I going to do though?" Minho asked. "I have no money. My father pays for everything. My phone, my bike insurance, everything." "We will figure it out," Jimin said. "First, you keep learning, you keep working, you get better. Then we will deal with the rest." That evening, after everyone else left, Jimin called Minho back. "I have been thinking. You need money now that your father cut you off. I cannot pay you much more than minimum wage. But the apartment above the shop has a second bedroom that I am not using. If you need a place to stay, you can use it. Free rent in exchange for you helping with extra work around the shop." Minho looked stunned. "Really? You would do that? You stood up for something you believe in. That matters. And honestly, I could use the help. The shop is getting busier. Having someone here full-time would be useful." Minho's eyes got wet. "Thank you. You have no idea what this means to me." "I think I do," Jimin said. "My father gave me a chance when I needed one. I am just passing it forward." The next week, Minho moved into the apartment above the shop. He brought only 2 bags of clothes and his motorcycle tools. Everything else he left behind. It was hard at first. He was used to having money for whatever he wanted. Now he had to budget carefully. He had to cook his own meals. He had to do his own laundry. But he did not complain. He was free. With Minho living at the shop, things got even better. He opened the shop in the mornings before Jimin woke up. He stayed late to finish projects. He took on extra work to help pay his way. The other teenagers noticed the change in him. He was calmer, more focused, less angry. He helped them more, sharing what he learned. 6 weeks into the apprenticeship, Jimin made an announcement. "I think you are all ready for the next step. Each of you is going to get a project motorcycle. These are bikes that need complete restoration. You will each work on your own bike. You can help each other, but the work is yours. You have 5 months to finish them. Then we will display them at the regional motorcycle show." She showed them 5 motorcycles in the back of the shop. They were old, rusty, and broken. They looked terrible. "These look like junk," Junho said. "They look like opportunity," Jimin corrected. "Right now they are junk. In 5 months they will be beautiful, functional motorcycles, and you will have done that. You will have taken something broken and made it whole. That is what this is all about." The teenagers looked at the motorcycles. Then they looked at each other. Slowly, smiles started to appear on their faces. "I call the red one," Taeyang said. "I want the blue one," Sora said. They chose their bikes. Each one was a different model, a different challenge. Minho got a 1980s classic that was in the worst condition of all. It was going to take a lot of work. "Are you sure about this one?" Jimin asked him. "It is the hardest." "I am sure," Minho said. "I want the challenge." The teenagers started working on their project bikes. At first, they were excited. But after a few days, reality set in. This was hard, really hard. The bikes were in worse condition than they looked. Everything needed work. Taeyang spent 2 days just trying to get his engine out. The bolts were rusted and stuck. He tried everything and nothing worked. He got frustrated and angry. "This is impossible," he said, throwing his wrench down. "I cannot do this." Jimin came over. "Do you remember what I told you on the first day? Safety first, then patience, then skill. You have safety and skill, but you are forgetting patience. This bike has been sitting for 20 years. It will not give up its secrets easily. You have to work with it, not against it." "How?" Jimin showed him a technique using penetrating oil and heat. "Let the oil soak overnight. Tomorrow try again with some heat. The metal will expand and the bolt will come free." The next day, Taeyang tried again. The bolt came free. He felt like he had won a major victory. Sora had different problems. Her bike's electrical system was a mess. Wires were cut, corroded, and crossed. She did not know where to start. "Start with the diagram," Jimin said. "Every wire has a purpose. Every connection is documented. Follow the manual. Take it one wire at a time." Sora spent weeks on the electrical system. It was tedious and frustrating, but slowly, piece by piece, she figured it out. And when she finally got the lights to work, she literally jumped up and down with joy. Junho discovered that his motorcycle's frame was cracked. It needed welding, which none of them knew how to do yet. "So I will teach you," Jimin said. "Welding is an important skill. You all should learn it anyway." She spent a week teaching them basic welding. They practiced on scrap metal until they could make decent welds. Then Junho repaired his frame, with Jimin supervising closely for safety. Daehan found that his bike needed custom parts that were no longer made. The original manufacturer had gone out of business decades ago. "Then you make them," Jimin said. "You have a lathe. You have raw materials. You learn to fabricate." Daehan learned to use the lathe and mill. He made his own parts from scratch. They were not perfect, but they worked. He was incredibly proud of what he created, but Minho had the biggest problems. His vintage bike was a nightmare. Every single system needed work. The engine was seized. The transmission was broken. The suspension was shot. The body panels were rusted through. He worked on it every spare moment. Morning, evening, weekends. He barely slept. He was obsessed. 2 months into the project, he had a breakdown. Jimin found him late one night in the shop, sitting next to his bike, crying. "I cannot do it," he said. "It is too much. I am not good enough. I thought I was learning, but this is beyond me. I am going to fail." Jimin sat down next to him. "Do you know what your biggest problem is? That I am not skilled enough? No. Your biggest problem is that you are trying to do everything alone. You have 4 other people working on their bikes. They all struggle with different things. You help them. They help you. That is what a community does. I wanted to prove I could do it myself." "Why? To prove something to your father? To prove something to me? Or to prove something to yourself?" Minho thought about that. "I do not know anymore. You do not have to do everything alone," Jimin said. "My father taught me that asking for help is not weakness. It is wisdom. Nobody is good at everything. But together, we are stronger than we are apart." The next day, Minho asked for help. Taeyang helped him with the engine. Sora helped with the electrical system. Junho helped with welding. Daehan helped with fabrication. Working together, they started to make real progress on Minho's bike. And in helping him, they learned more themselves. They saw techniques and solutions they had not thought of for their own bikes. The shop became more than just a workplace. It became a team, a family. They ate meals together. They celebrated small victories together. They supported each other through frustrations and setbacks. And slowly, impossibly, the 5 broken motorcycles started to become whole again. The morning sun was just starting to warm up the small coastal town when Jimin Park opened the metal door of her motorcycle repair shop. She was 24 years old, but her hands were already rough and marked with old scars from working with tools and hot metal. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail, and she wore the same blue work clothes she wore every day. The shop was not big. It had 2 work bays where motorcycles could be lifted and fixed. The walls were covered with old posters of motorcycles and shelves full of parts and tools. Everything had its place. Jimin made sure of that. Her father had taught her that a clean shop was a safe shop. It had been 6 months since she took over the shop. 6 months since her father died in a motorcycle accident. 6 months of trying to keep his dream alive while the world seemed to push against her at every turn. Jimin walked to the small office at the back of the shop and turned on the old computer. 3 repair appointments today. That was better than last week when she only had 1. But it was not enough. The rent was due in 2 weeks and she was still short by almost half. She heard the sound of a motorcycle pulling up outside. Good. That must be Mr. Kim with his old Honda. He was one of her regular customers, one of the few who did not care that she was a woman doing a job most people thought only men should do. But when she walked out to the front, it was not Mr. Kim. 5 teenagers sat on motorcycles and scooters in front of her shop. They were all around 16 to 18 years old. The bikes were modified with loud pipes and bright paint jobs, the kind of modifications that looked flashy but did not actually make the bikes run better. The boy in front seemed to be the leader. He had expensive clothes and an arrogant smile. His motorcycle was the newest and most expensive of the group. He revved the engine loudly, making it roar. "Hey," he called out to Jimin. "You work here?" "I own this shop," Jimin said calmly. "Can I help you?" The teenagers laughed. The leader turned off his engine and got off his bike. "You own it? How old are you, like 20? And you are a girl?" "I am 24. And yes, I am a woman. Is there a problem with your bike?" Another boy, taller with spiky hair, pointed at his scooter. "Yeah, it is making a weird sound. Fix it now." "I have appointments scheduled," Jimin said. "I can look at it after I finish with my current customers. That would be around 3 this afternoon." 3? The leader stepped closer. "We do not wait. We want service now." "Everyone waits their turn," Jimin replied. Her voice was polite but firm. "If you want to schedule an appointment, I can fit you in this week." The leader's face turned red. "Do you know who I am? My name is Minho. My father owns half the buildings in this town, including probably this dump." "That is interesting," Jimin said. "But it does not change the fact that I have other customers scheduled first. You can wait, or you can leave." Just then, Mr. Kim pulled up on his old Honda. He looked at the teenagers blocking the entrance to the shop, and his smile faded. The teenagers were standing in his way, their bikes spread across the parking area. "Excuse me," Mr. Kim said quietly. "I have an appointment." Minho looked at him and then at Jimin. Then he did something that made Jimin's jaw tighten. He got back on his motorcycle, started it, and revved the engine hard. Black smoke poured out of the exhaust pipe. He aimed it right at the open door of Jimin's shop, filling it with fumes and noise. The other teenagers laughed and did the same thing. The noise was deafening. The smoke made Jimin's eyes water. Mr. Kim shook his head and started to back away. "I will come another time," he called out over the noise. Then he drove away. The teenagers finally stopped revving their engines. Minho smiled at Jimin. "Looks like you have time for us now." Jimin took a deep breath. She wanted to yell at them. She wanted to call the police. But she knew that would only make things worse. Instead, she walked to the small security camera mounted above her door and made sure it was recording. "You need to leave," she said. "Now." "Or what?" Minho asked. "You will fight all 5 of us? Come on, guys. I do not think she wants our business." The teenagers laughed again and got back on their bikes. They rode away slowly, revving their engines and shouting. Jimin watched them go. Her heart was pounding. She walked back into her shop and looked around. The smoke was clearing out, but the smell remained. She had worked so hard to keep this place clean and professional. And in less than 5 minutes, those kids had made it feel dirty and unsafe. That afternoon, Jimin tried to work on the bikes she had scheduled, but she could not focus. She kept thinking about Minho and his friends. She kept thinking about how Mr. Kim had left, how he might not come back. The next day, the teenagers came back. This time, they did not even pretend to want service. They just parked in front of her shop, sat on their bikes, and played loud music from a speaker. They were there when Jimin opened at 8 in the morning. They stayed until noon, then left for lunch, then came back until she closed at 6. 2 customers who had appointments called to cancel. They said they did not want to deal with trouble. On the 3rd day, the teenagers brought friends. There were now 8 of them. They took pictures of Jimin working and posted them on social media with mean comments. "Look at this girl playing mechanic. She does not know a wrench from a screwdriver. My little sister could fix bikes better than her." Jimin saw the posts because customers started sending her links. Some people defended her in the comments, but most just laughed. By the end of the week, Jimin's appointment book was nearly empty. People were scared to come to her shop. They did not want to deal with the teenagers. They did not want trouble. Jimin sat in her small apartment above the shop that Friday night. She looked at her bank account on her phone. She had enough money for maybe 2 more months of rent. Maybe 3 if she stopped eating out completely and lived on rice and eggs. She looked at the photo of her father on the wall. He was standing next to his favorite motorcycle, smiling. He had been so proud when she told him she wanted to learn mechanics. So many fathers would have said no. So many would have pushed their daughters to do something more appropriate, but not her father. "I will teach you everything I know," he had said, "and then you will be better than me." Jimin felt tears coming, but she pushed them back. Crying would not help. She needed a plan. She opened her laptop and looked at the security camera footage from the week. She had video of everything. The teenagers blocking customers, the exhaust smoke in her shop, the noise and harassment. She could take this to the police. But would they care? She was just one small business owner, and Minho's father apparently owned half the town. No, the police would not help. She needed to handle this differently. Jimin spent the whole weekend thinking. On Monday morning, she made a decision. She opened her social media and typed a message. "To the young bikers causing trouble at my shop. You think you know motorcycles? You think you are tough? I challenge you to a real competition. You against me. If you win, I will close my shop and leave town. If I win, you work for me for free for 3 months learning the real business. Meet me at Riverside Track this Saturday at noon. Bring your best skills. You will need them." She posted the message before she could change her mind. Within an hour, it had been shared 100 times. Within 2 hours, Minho had replied, "You are on. Get ready to pack your bags." Jimin closed her laptop and went back to work. Her hands were shaking, but her jaw was set. She had 6 days to prepare. 6 days to make sure she was ready to beat 5 cocky teenagers who thought they knew everything about motorcycles. 6 days to save her father's shop and her future. She picked up a wrench and got back to work. There was a bike that needed fixing, and after Saturday there might be 5 teenagers who needed to learn what real skill looked like. The social media post spread faster than Jimin expected. By Tuesday morning, everyone in the small town seemed to know about the challenge. People stopped by her shop just to talk about it. Some thought she was brave. Others thought she was crazy. "You should not have challenged them," Mrs. Lee said. She owned the bakery 2 streets over. "Those boys are trouble, and Minho's father is powerful. He can make your life very difficult." Jimin just nodded and kept working on the motorcycle in front of her. She had heard the same warning at least 10 times already that day, but the worst part was not the warnings. The worst part was that business got even slower. People were afraid. They did not want to be caught in the middle of whatever was going to happen between Jimin and the teenagers. By Wednesday, Jimin had only 1 customer. By Thursday, she had none. She sat in her empty shop that evening and counted her money again. The numbers had not changed. She was in trouble. Real trouble. Her phone rang. It was her landlord, Mr. Choi. Jimin's stomach tightened. She knew what this call was about. "Hello, Mr. Choi," she answered. "Jimin, we need to talk." His voice was not friendly. "I have been hearing things. About trouble at your shop. About teenagers causing problems." "I am handling it," Jimin said. "Are you? Because I hear you challenge them to some kind of competition. That is not handling it. That is making it worse." Jimin closed her eyes. "Mr. Choi, please. I just need a little time." "Time? Jimin, I like you. I respected your father. But I cannot have trouble at my properties. Do you understand? If this situation does not improve, I might not be able to renew your lease next month. Next month, but I have 3 months left on my lease. Read the contract. I have the right to terminate early if the property is being used in a way that causes problems for other tenants or the neighborhood. And right now, that is exactly what is happening." The line went dead. Jimin stared at her phone. Mr. Choi was Minho's uncle. She had not known that until now. But it made sense. Of course they were related. Of course, she wanted to scream. She wanted to throw something. but instead she took a deep breath and walked up to her apartment. She needed to sleep. Saturday was coming, and she needed to be ready. But sleep did not come easily. She kept thinking about her father, about how hard he had worked to build his reputation, about how he had taught her everything he knew. "You are better than anyone I have ever trained," he used to tell her. "Not because you are my daughter, but because you actually listen, you learn, you do not let your ego get in the way." Jimin remembered the first time she had completely torn down and rebuilt an engine by herself. She was 19. Her father had watched the whole time, but had not helped. When she finally got it running, he had smiled so big. "That is my girl," he had said. "That is my mechanic." Friday morning, Jimin went to the Riverside track to check it out. It was an old place where people used to race motorcycles years ago. Now it was mostly abandoned. The track was cracked and overgrown with weeds in places, but it was still usable. She walked the course, planning her route. She noted every turn, every rough spot, every place where someone could make a mistake. This was her advantage. She knew how to prepare. She knew how to study. When she got back to her shop, the teenagers were there, all 5 of them plus 3 more friends. Minho was sitting on his expensive motorcycle scrolling on his phone. When he saw Jimin, he smiled. "Checking out the battlefield? Smart. You will need every advantage you can get." "What do you want?" Jimin asked. "Just wanted to remind you of the deal. When you lose on Saturday, you close this shop and leave town forever. And when I win, you work for me for 3 months, all 5 of you." One of the other boys, a tall kid with a friendly face, laughed nervously. "Come on, Minho. Maybe we should just drop this. It is getting too serious." "Shut up, Taeyang," Minho snapped. "We are not dropping anything. She challenged us, remember?" Jimin looked at Taeyang. He seemed different from the others, less mean, less sure. "What is your name?" she asked him. "Taeyang," he said quietly. "Why do you ride motorcycles, Taeyang?" He looked confused by the question. "I don't know, because it is fun, I guess." "That is it? Just fun?" Taeyang shrugged. He looked uncomfortable. Minho revved his engine. "Stop trying to get in our heads. It will not work. See you Saturday, mechanic girl." They drove away, leaving exhaust smoke and noise behind them. That evening, an old man came to Jimin's shop. He was at least 70 with white hair and kind eyes. He walked with a slight limp. "Are you Jimin Park?" he asked. "Yes, sir. Can I help you?" "I am Mr. Song. I knew your father. We raced together when we were young." He looked around the shop. He was a good man, and a good mechanic. "Thank you," Jimin said. She felt tears trying to come again. "I heard about your challenge on Saturday. I wanted to tell you something." Mr. Song sat down on an old stool. "Your father once told me that you were the most talented mechanic he ever met. Better than him, even. He said you had something special, a gift for understanding how machines work." "He said that?" "He did. Many times. He was very proud of you." Mr. Song stood up slowly. "I came to tell you that you are going to win on Saturday. Not because those boys are not skilled, but because you have something they do not have. You have respect for the machine. You understand that a motorcycle is not a toy. It is a tool that can save you or kill you. Your father taught you that." "How do you know I will win?" Mr. Song smiled. "Because I saw you at the track this morning. I followed you there. I watched you study every inch of that course. Those boys will show up and try to ride fast. But you will ride smart. And smart always beats fast." After Mr. Song left, Jimin felt a little better. But only a little. She still had to actually win the competition, and she still had to figure out what to do with 5 teenage boys if she did win. Friday night, Jimin could not sleep at all. She kept going over the plan in her head. The competition would have 3 parts: a race on the obstacle course, a mechanical diagnosis challenge, and a speed repair challenge. She was confident about her skills, but she was worried about the pressure, about the crowd that would be watching, about what would happen if she made a mistake. At 3 in the morning, she got out of bed and went down to the shop. She pulled out her father's toolbox. It was old and worn, but every tool was in perfect condition. He had taught her to care for her tools like they were treasures. She picked up a wrench and held it. It felt right in her hand, comfortable. This was who she was. Not a girl playing at being a mechanic, but a real mechanic. A skilled one. She thought about Minho and his friends. They were young and stupid and mean, but they were also lost. She could see it in their eyes, especially Taiyang. They were using motorcycles to fill some hole in their lives, to feel important or free or dangerous. She had been like that once too, before her father showed her the real meaning of riding. It was not about rebellion or looking cool. It was about mastery, about controlling a powerful machine with skill and respect. Maybe that was what she needed to teach them. If she won. Saturday morning came too fast. Jimin put on clean work clothes and tied her hair back. She loaded her tools into her old truck and drove to the riverside track. She got there early, but people were already gathering. Word had spread. It seemed like half the town had come to watch. Jimin saw familiar faces. Mr. Kim was there. Mrs. Lee from the bakery. Mr. Song gave her a small nod. Some of her old customers who had stopped coming were there too. And then the teenagers arrived. All 5 of them riding in formation. Minho in front looking confident and cocky. Taiyang beside him, looking nervous. The others behind them, excited for the show. They parked their bikes and walked over to where Jimin was waiting. A crowd gathered around them. An old racer who still came to the track sometimes stepped forward. "I will be the judge," he announced. "The competition has 3 parts. First, a timed race on the obstacle course. Second, a mechanical diagnosis challenge. Third, a speed repair. Best overall score wins. Everyone understand?" Jimin nodded. Minho smiled and said, "Let's get this over with. I have plans tonight." The crowd moved to the side of the track. Jimin looked at the course ahead. She had studied it. She knew every turn. She was ready. But as she got on her motorcycle and started the engine, she realized something. She was not just fighting for her shop anymore. She was fighting for her father's memory, for all the years he spent teaching her, for all the times people told her she could not do this because she was a woman. This was bigger than just beating 5 teenagers. This was about proving that skill and knowledge mattered more than ego and attitude. The judge raised his hand. "Riders ready." Jimin put on her helmet. Her hands were steady now. Her mind was clear. The judge's hand came down. "Go." Minho went first. He revved his engine 3 times, showing off for the crowd. Then he took off fast. Too fast. He hit the first turn and had to brake hard. His back tire slid a little. The crowd made sounds of worry, but Minho recovered quickly. He was a decent rider, Jimin had to admit. He knew how to handle his expensive bike. He took the second turn better, leaning into it smoothly. He jumped over a small hill and landed well. The crowd cheered. There was a tight section with cones set up like a slalom. Minho went through it, but he clipped 2 cones. Each cone was a 2-second penalty. He finished the course in 1 minute and 43 seconds, plus 4 seconds in penalties. 1 minute and 47 seconds total. The crowd clapped. It was a decent time. "Beat that, mechanic girl," Minho called out as he rode back to the starting line. Jimin did not answer. She just focused on the course ahead. She took a deep breath, then she nodded to the judge. "Go." Jimin started smooth, not too fast. She hit the first turn at the perfect angle, not needing to brake at all. She carried her speed through it. The second turn came up and she leaned into it, feeling the motorcycle respond to her body. This was what her father had taught her. The bike was not separate from her. It was an extension of her body. The small hill was next. Jimin did not jump high like Minho did. She kept the bike low and steady, landing smoothly without bouncing. The crowd was quiet, watching closely. The slalom section was where Jimin showed her real skill. She wove through the cones like water flowing around rocks. Not a single cone was touched. Her movements were precise and controlled. She crossed the finish line and looked at the judge. He clicked his stopwatch. 1 minute and 31 seconds, no penalties. The crowd erupted in cheers. Even some of Minho's friends looked impressed. Jimin had beaten him by 16 seconds. 16 seconds was a huge margin in racing. Minho's face was red. "Lucky run," he muttered. "Let's see the next challenge." The judge brought out a motorcycle. It was an old bike, and the judge explained that he had deliberately broken 5 things on it. Both competitors had 10 minutes to identify all 5 problems. They would write down their answers, and whoever got the most correct would win this round. "And no, you cannot start the engine," the judge said. "You have to figure it out by looking, listening, and using your knowledge." Minho went first again. He walked around the bike slowly. He checked the tires, squeezed the brake, looked at the chain. After 10 minutes, he handed his paper to the judge. He looked confident. Then it was Jimin's turn. She did not rush. She started at the front of the bike and worked her way back methodically. She checked the brake fluid level. She tested the clutch cable tension. She looked at the spark plug. She examined the air filter. She checked the oil level. When her time was up, she handed her paper to the judge. The judge read both papers. Then he announced the results. Minho identified 2 problems, the loose chain and the low tire pressure. Both correct. Minho smiled and crossed his arms. Jimin identified all 5 problems, the loose chain, the low tire pressure, the dirty air filter, the disconnected spark plug wire, and the empty brake fluid reservoir. The crowd clapped and cheered even louder than before. Minho's smile disappeared. His friends looked at each other uncomfortably. Taiyang walked over to the bike and looked at it. "I did not even see the spark plug wire," he said quietly. "That is because you were not taught to look systematically," Jimin said. She was not being mean. She was just stating a fact. You have to check everything in order. You cannot just look at the obvious things. The judge called for the final challenge. This was the speed repair. Both competitors would be given a motorcycle with a flat tire. They had to remove the wheel, change the inner tube, put the wheel back on, and make sure everything was tight and safe. Fastest time wins. This time, Jimin would go first. The judge set up a motorcycle and deflated the rear tire in front of everyone so they could see it was fair. Then he said, "Go." Jimin moved fast but not rushed. She grabbed her tools and loosened the axle nut. She had done this 1,000 times. Her hands knew what to do without her having to think about it. She lifted the wheel out and laid the bike on its side carefully. She broke the bead of the tire, removed the old tube, checked the inside of the tire for sharp objects, then installed the new tube. She put the wheel back on, tightened the axle nut, and checked the alignment. "Done," she called out. 7 minutes and 12 seconds, the judge announced. The crowd cheered again. It was a fast time. Professional mechanics at shops usually took about 10 minutes for this job. Now it was Minho's turn. He looked nervous for the first time all day. The judge set up another bike with a flat rear tire. "Go." Minho started fast. Maybe too fast. He loosened the axle nut and pulled the wheel out, but then he struggled with the tire. He could not break the bead properly. He used the wrong technique and ended up using way too much force. He got the old tube out and started to put the new one in. But he was rushing. He did not check the inside of the tire for whatever caused the flat. That was a basic mistake. If something sharp was still in there, the new tube would just go flat again. He got the wheel back on but did not check the alignment. He just tightened the axle nut as fast as he could. "Done," he shouted. 11 minutes and 38 seconds, the judge said. "But wait, let me check the work." The judge spun the wheel. It wobbled. The alignment was off. "This is not safe," the judge said. "If someone rode this motorcycle, the wheel could come loose. That is dangerous. I have to add a 5-minute penalty for unsafe work." Minho's face went from red to white. "That is not fair. She did not have her work checked." "I checked everyone's work," the judge said firmly. "Hers was perfect. Yours was not. In this competition and in real life, safety matters more than speed. You lose this round." The crowd was completely silent now. Everyone was looking at Minho. His friends were looking at the ground. The judge raised his hand. "The winner is Jimin Park. 3 rounds to 0. The crowd exploded in cheers. People were clapping and shouting Jimin's name. Mr. Song had tears in his eyes. Mr. Kim was pumping his fist in the air. But Jimin did not feel like celebrating. She looked at Minho and his friends. They looked crushed, humiliated, angry. This was the moment that mattered, not the victory. But what happened next? Jimin walked over to where the 5 teenagers were standing. The crowd got quiet, waiting to see what she would say. "You lost," Jimin said simply. "That means you work for me for 3 months, starting Monday morning at 8. Minho looked like he wanted to punch something. "This is garbage. You probably cheated somehow." "Cheated how?" Jimin asked calmly. "Everyone saw everything. Your work was not safe. That is why you lost." "Whatever." Minho turned to walk away. "Wait," Jimin said. Minho stopped but did not turn around. "Before you leave, I want to ask you all something. Can we talk privately? Just the 6 of us?" Minho's friends looked at each other. Taeyang nodded. "Okay. Let's hear what she has to say." They walked away from the crowd to a quiet spot near some old trees. The teenagers stood there with their arms crossed, defensive and angry. All except Taeyang, who just looked tired. Jimin sat down on an old tire. She motioned for them to sit too. After a moment they did. Even Minho, though he sat far away from the others. "I want to ask you something," Jimin said. "And I want real answers, not tough guy answers, real ones." "What?" one of the other boys asked. His name was Junho. "Why do you ride motorcycles? What does it mean to you?" There was silence. Then Junho laughed. "That is a weird question." "It is not weird. It is important. Why do you ride?" Junho shrugged. "I don't know. It is fun. It makes me feel cool." "What about you?" Jimin looked at another boy. "Daehan, right?" Daehan nodded. "Same, I guess. It is something to do. Better than sitting at home." "Sora?" Jimin looked at the only girl in the group besides herself. Sora was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "It makes me feel free. Like I can go anywhere and do anything." "Free from what?" Jimin asked gently. "From my mom. From her rules. From her expectations. She wants me to be perfect all the time. When I am on my bike, I do not have to be perfect." Jimin nodded. "Taeyang?" Taeyang looked at his hands. "I ride because I feel invisible at home. I have 4 brothers and sisters. My parents barely notice me. But when I am on my bike, I feel like I exist. Like I matter." Everyone was quiet. Even Minho had stopped looking angry. He just looked tired. "Minho?" Jimin asked. "What about you?" "Why do you care?" he asked bitterly. "Because I think you are all using motorcycles to run away from something. And I understand that. I did the same thing once." "You?" Minho laughed. "You are perfect. You have a shop. You have skills. Everyone loves you." "No," Jimin said firmly. "I am not perfect, and not everyone loves me. Do you know why I really have that shop?" They all looked at her. "My father died a year ago. He was riding to my college graduation. He was so proud of me. He wanted to be there. But he was in a hurry, and he took a risk he should not have taken. He crashed. He died before the ambulance got there." Jimin's voice was steady, but her eyes were wet. "I blamed myself. I thought if I had told him not to come, if I had said I did not care about graduation, he would still be alive. I was so angry. At him. At myself. At the world." "So what did you do?" Sora asked quietly. "I dropped out of engineering school. I took over his shop. I thought if I could save his business, I could somehow make up for what happened. But I was still angry. I was using the shop to run away from my feelings, to avoid dealing with my grief." "What changed?" Taeyang asked. "I realized something. My father did not teach me about motorcycles so I could run away. He taught me so I could move forward. There is a difference." "What difference?" Minho asked. "Running away is about escape. Moving forward is about purpose. My father taught me that motorcycles are not toys. They are not about rebellion or looking cool. They are about mastery, about learning to control something powerful, about respecting the machine and yourself. She looked at each of them. You are all running away from something, from parents who do not understand you, from feeling invisible or pressured or not good enough. But running away will not fix anything. It will just make you more lost. The teenagers were all quiet now, really listening. So here is what I am offering you, Jimin said. Not punishment, not humiliation, but a real chance. A chance to learn actual skills, to channel what you are feeling into something real and valuable, to stop running and start building. What do you mean? Taeyang asked. I mean, I will teach you everything I know, not just about fixing motorcycles, but about respecting them, about patience and precision and safety, about turning anger into focus, and in return, you help me save my shop and keep my father's legacy alive. Why would you do that? Minho asked. His voice was different now, quieter, more real. Because someone helped me once when I was lost, Jimin said. My father saw that I was angry and confused, and he gave me something to focus on. He gave me purpose. And because I need help. My shop is failing. I cannot do it alone. Maybe we can save each other. There was a long silence. Then Minho did something that surprised everyone. A tear ran down his face. He tried to wipe it away quickly, but they all saw it. I do not know how to do anything, he said quietly. I am not good at anything. All I have is my father's money. And he looks at me like I am a disappointment. The only time I feel like maybe I am worth something is when I am on my bike. But today you proved I am not even good at that. Jimin shook her head. No. Today proved you have not been taught properly. There is a difference. You have potential. All of you do. But potential means nothing without guidance and work. She stood up. Monday morning, 8 o'clock, my shop. I will pay you minimum wage. I will teach you real skills, and in 6 months each of you will restore a motorcycle from scratch. Your own project, your own achievement. Then you can decide who you want to be. She started to walk back toward the crowd. Then she stopped and turned around. This is not about me winning and you losing. This is about all of us winning together. If you do not show up Monday, I will understand. But I hope you do. I really do. She walked away, leaving the 5 teenagers sitting there in silence. Sunday was the longest day of Jimin's life. She woke up early and went to the shop even though it was supposed to be her day off. She could not sit still. She kept wondering if the teenagers would actually show up Monday morning, or if they would just forget about everything. She spent the whole day cleaning and organizing the shop. She set up 5 work areas, 1 for each of them. She made a list of basic tools they would each need to learn. She planned out the first week of training in her notebook. But in the back of her mind, a voice kept saying they would not come. Why would they? She had humiliated them in front of the whole town. Minho especially had looked so broken. Maybe that was too much. Maybe she had pushed too hard. Sunday evening, Jimin sat in her apartment and ate instant noodles for dinner. She was too nervous to cook anything real. She kept checking her phone, but nobody messaged her. At 10 o'clock, she gave up and went to bed. But she could not sleep. She just stared at the ceiling, thinking about everything that could go wrong. Monday morning came. Jimin was downstairs in the shop by 7:30, even though she had told them to come at 8. She unlocked the door and turned on all the lights. She checked that everything was ready. Then she made coffee and waited. 7:45. No one. 7:50. Still no one. 7:55. Jimin felt her heart sinking. They were not coming. She had been stupid to think they would. Then, at exactly 8 o'clock, she heard a motorcycle pull up outside. Then another. Then another. Jimin walked to the door. All 5 teenagers were there. They looked nervous and uncomfortable. They had actually shown up. Taeyang was the first to get off his bike. We are here, he said simply. I see that, Jimin replied. She tried to keep her voice calm, but inside she felt relieved and happy and nervous all at once. Minho was the last to get off his bike. He did not look at Jimin. He just stood there with his hands in his pockets. "Come inside," Jimin said. "We have work to do." They followed her into the shop. They looked around like they were seeing it for the first time, which was funny, because they had been here before. But this time was different. This time they were not here to cause trouble. They were here to learn. "First rule," Jimin said. "In this shop, safety comes before everything. Before speed, before looking cool, before ego. Safety first, always. Understand?" They all nodded. "Second rule. This shop stays clean and organized. Every tool has a place. When you use something, you put it back. A messy shop is a dangerous shop, understand?" They nodded again. "Third rule, respect. You respect the motorcycles we work on. You respect the customers who trust us. You respect each other. And you respect yourself by doing your best work. Understand?" "Yes," Taeyang said. The others murmured agreement. "Good. Now, before you touch any motorcycle, you are going to learn how to clean. For the next 3 days, you will clean this entire shop from top to bottom. You will organize every tool. You will learn where everything goes and why. Only after that will you start learning actual repairs." Yunyo raised his hand. 3 days? Just cleaning? 3 days, Jimin confirmed. "You cannot fix motorcycles if you do not understand the workspace. You cannot use tools properly if you do not know how to care for them. This is not punishment. This is foundation." Minho finally spoke. "We came here to learn about motorcycles, not to be janitors." Jimin looked at him steadily. "My father taught me that a master mechanic knows every inch of their shop. They know where every tool is without looking. They keep their workspace clean because a clean shop is efficient and safe. If you want to be good at this, really good, you start here. If you just want to play around with motorcycles, you can leave right now." Minho stared back at her. Then he looked away. "Fine. Where are the cleaning supplies?" Jimin showed them where everything was. She gave them tasks. Taeyang and Junho would sweep and mop the floors. Sora and Daehan would clean and organize all the hand tools. Minho would clean the workbenches and equipment. At first, they worked in silence. It was awkward. They kept looking at Jimin like they expected her to yell at them or criticize them. But she just worked alongside them, cleaning her own areas. After an hour, Taeyang started asking questions. "Why do you keep the wrenches in size order?" "Because when you are in the middle of a repair and need a specific size, you do not want to waste time searching," Jimin explained. "Organization saves time and prevents mistakes." "Why are the screwdrivers separate from the other tools?" "Because screwdrivers are used most often. They need to be easily accessible." Sora was examining a torque wrench. "What is this for?" Jimin came over. "That is a torque wrench. It lets you tighten bolts to an exact specification. Different parts need different tightness. Too loose and things can fall apart. Too tight and you can strip threads or break parts." "That is so specific," Sora said. "Motorcycle repair is all about being specific," Jimin replied. "Every measurement matters. Every specification exists for a reason." As the morning went on, the teenagers started to relax. They talked more. They asked more questions. Jimin answered everything patiently. At noon, Jimin ordered pizza for everyone. They sat outside the shop and ate together. It felt almost normal. "Why did you really do this?" Minho asked suddenly. "You won the competition. You could have just made us leave and never come back. Why actually teach us?" Jimin thought about how to answer. "Because I was you once. Not exactly like you, but similar. I was angry and lost and using motorcycles as an escape. My father could have just let me keep being angry. But he did not. He challenged me to channel my feelings into skill. He gave me a purpose. I want to do the same for you." "Your father sounds like he was a good person," Sora said quietly. "He was, and he was not perfect. He made mistakes, but he cared about passing on knowledge. He believed that teaching someone was the highest form of respect. You respect them enough to invest time in making them better." Daehan spoke up. He had been quiet all morning. My dad thinks working on motorcycles is a waste of time. He wants me to go to university and become a businessman like him. What do you want? Jimin asked. I do not know yet. But I like this. I like learning how things work. I like using my hands. Then keep doing it, Jimin said. You do not have to decide your whole life right now. Just focus on learning. The rest will become clear later. The afternoon was more of the same, cleaning, organizing, learning the names and purposes of different tools. By the end of the day, the shop looked better than it had in months. Everything was clean and organized. Good work today, Jimin said at 6 o'clock. Same time tomorrow. As the teenagers were leaving, Taeyang stayed behind. Thank you, he said, for giving us this chance. Thank you for taking it, Jimin replied. That night, Jimin wrote in her notebook. She made notes about each teenager. Taeyang was curious and asked good questions. Sora had excellent attention to detail. Junho worked steadily and did not complain. Daehan was quiet but focused. Minho was still defensive, but he had not caused any trouble today. It was a start. A small start, but a start. The next 2 days followed the same pattern. The teenagers came at 8. They cleaned and organized. They asked questions. They learned the basics of shop safety and tool care. On Wednesday, something interesting happened. Jimin was showing them how to properly clean and maintain an air compressor when Mr. Kim came in with his Honda. The teenagers all tensed up. Mr. Kim was one of the customers they had scared away with their harassment. Mr. Kim looked at them, then at Jimin. Everything okay here? Everything is fine, Jimin said. These are my new apprentices. They are learning the business. Mr. Kim raised his eyebrows. Apprentices? These are the same kids who… Yes, Jimin interrupted gently. The same ones. But they are here to learn now. They are working hard. Mr. Kim studied the teenagers. They looked back at him uncomfortably. Then Minho stepped forward. I am sorry, he said. His voice was quiet but clear. For scaring you away. For being a jerk, I was wrong. Mr. Kim blinked in surprise. So did Jimin. She had not expected that. We were all wrong, Taeyang added. We are trying to do better now. Mr. Kim looked at them for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Okay, I appreciate that. Takes guts to apologize. After Mr. Kim left, Jimin looked at Minho. That was good. That took courage. Minho shrugged, but Jimin could see he was pleased. Thursday came. This was the day Jimin had been waiting for. The shop was clean, the tools were organized, the teenagers had learned the basic rules and safety procedures. Today, Jimin announced, you start learning actual motorcycle repair. We are going to start with the most basic task, an oil change. The teenagers perked up immediately. Finally, they would get to work on actual motorcycles. Jimin brought out an old motorcycle and explained every step. Where the oil drain plug was, how to remove it safely, how to replace the oil filter, how to add the correct amount of new oil, how to check the level. It seems simple, she said, but this simple task teaches you important things. It teaches you to be careful and precise. It teaches you to follow procedures. It teaches you that even basic maintenance matters. She demonstrated each step slowly and clearly. The teenagers watched closely. Now, Jimin said, each of you will do an oil change on a different motorcycle. I will supervise. Take your time. Focus on doing it right, not doing it fast. Taeyang went first. He was nervous, and his hands shook a little, but he followed every step carefully. When he finished, Jimin checked his work. Perfect, she said. You did not spill any oil. You tightened everything correctly. You checked your work. That is how it should be done. Taeyang beamed with pride. One by one, the others did their oil changes. Sora was precise and methodical. Junho was careful and asked questions when he was not sure. Daehan worked slowly but got everything right. Minho was last. He approached the motorcycle and Jimin could see him trying to prove himself. He worked quickly, maybe too quickly. Slow down, Jimin said gently. This is not a race. Minho took a breath and slowed down. He finished the oil change and looked at Jimin expectantly. Jimin checked his work. You forgot to replace the crush washer on the drain plug. Always replace it. It is cheap and prevents leaks. Do it again. Minho's face fell, but he did not argue. He removed the drain plug again, replaced the washer, and did it right. Better, Jimin said. Always check your work. Always. At the end of the day, all 5 teenagers had successfully completed an oil change. It was a small achievement, but it felt big. They were not just kids causing trouble anymore. They were learning real skills. As they left that evening, Jimin heard them talking excitedly about what they had learned. She smiled. This might actually work. They might actually become real mechanics. And maybe, just maybe, she would save her shop after all. 3 months into the project, the motorcycles were starting to look like actual motorcycles instead of piles of rusty junk. The engines ran, the electrical systems worked, the frames were solid and safe. Now came the final phase, making them beautiful. Jimin taught them about paint preparation, which was more complicated than any of them expected. Every surface had to be sanded smooth. Every bit of rust had to be removed. Every scratch and dent had to be filled and smoothed. It was tedious work that took weeks. Sora discovered that she loved this part. She had a natural eye for detail and the patience to do the prep work right. She helped everyone with their body work, teaching them what Jimin had taught her. You have to treat the surface like a canvas, Sora explained. If the canvas is rough, the painting will be rough. If the canvas is smooth, the painting will be smooth. She decided to do something special with her bike. She wanted to combine traditional Korean art with modern motorcycle design. She spent hours researching patterns and techniques. Then she carefully planned out a design that incorporated traditional flower motifs with geometric shapes. When she showed the design to Jimin, Jimin smiled. Your mother wanted you to be perfect. This is you showing her that you are perfect, just not in the way she expected. This is beautiful. Sora's eyes filled with tears. Do you think I can actually do this? I know you can. You have the skill and the patience. Trust yourself. The painting phase revealed each teenager's personality. Taeyang chose a simple but bold red with black accents, clean and confident. Junho went with blue and silver, classic and reliable. Daehan chose green with gold trim, unique and understated. Minho struggled with his choice. He wanted his bike to be perfect. He changed his mind 5 times about colors and designs. Finally, Jimin sat him down. What is this really about? She asked. I want it to be the best, Minho said. I want people to look at it and be amazed. Why? Minho was quiet for a moment. Because I want my father to see it and realize he was wrong about me. And if he does not? What do you mean? What if you make the most beautiful motorcycle in the world and your father still does not approve? Will that change how you feel about what you created? Minho thought about that. I guess it should not. But it would hurt. Of course it would hurt. But you cannot create something for someone else's approval. You have to create it for yourself. What do you want your bike to say about who you are? Minho looked at his motorcycle. I want it to show that I can take something broken and make it whole. That I can take something everyone else gave up on and prove it has value. Then that is what you paint. That is your story. Minho chose dark blue, almost black with silver details. Simple but elegant. He painted it himself, carefully and precisely. When he finished, it looked professional. As the motorcycles neared completion, news spread around town. People started coming by to see the progress. Some were former customers who were happy to see the shop thriving. Others were just curious about the teenagers who had transformed from troublemakers to skilled workers. One Saturday, a reporter from the local newspaper came by. She wanted to do a story about the apprenticeship program and the upcoming motorcycle show. This is a great human interest story, she said. Troubled teens finding purpose through mentorship. The community will love it, but Jimin was hesitant. I do not want this to be about troubled teens getting fixed. That is not what this is. These are capable young people who were given a chance to develop their skills. There is a difference. The reporter nodded. You are right. Let me rephrase. How about, local mechanic creates opportunity for young people to discover their potential? Better, Jimin said. The article came out a week later. It featured photos of each teenager with their motorcycle. It told their stories honestly but respectfully. It talked about the work they had done and the skills they had learned. The response was overwhelming. People from all over the region called to ask about apprenticeships. Other shop owners wanted to know how Jimin had structured the program. A local technical college reached out to ask if she would be interested in teaching classes. But the most unexpected response came from Minho's father. He showed up at the shop late one afternoon, just as everyone was finishing work for the day. The teenagers saw him and tensed up. Minho looked like he wanted to run. Minho, can we talk? His father asked. His voice was different than before, quieter, less demanding. Minho looked at Jimin. She nodded encouragement. Minho and his father walked outside to talk privately. The others watched through the window, pretending not to watch. They talked for almost an hour. At first, both of them looked angry and defensive. Then they just looked tired. Then, slowly, they started to relax. Minho showed his father the motorcycle. He explained what he had done, how he had learned, what each part meant. His father listened. Really listened. He asked questions. He looked at the work closely. He touched the paint, examined the welds, checked the engine. Finally, they came back inside. Minho's father approached Jimin. I owe you an apology, he said. I thought you were leading my son astray. I thought you were encouraging him to throw away his future. But I was wrong. You were helping him find his future. I just could not see it, because it was different from what I wanted. Thank you, Jimin said. But I was just giving him the tools. He did the work himself. I know. And that is what I could not see before. He turned to Minho. I was trying to force you to follow my path because it was safe and comfortable. But safe and comfortable is not the same as meaningful and fulfilling. I am sorry it took me so long to understand that. Minho looked shocked. So you are okay with this? I am more than okay. I am proud. Not because you are doing what I wanted, but because you found something you truly care about, and you committed to it. That takes courage. What about my college fund? His father smiled. It is still there. But now you can use it for technical school or engineering school or whatever supports what you want to do. Your choice. And your allowance is restored, though I notice you probably do not need it as much anymore. I have been learning to budget, Minho admitted. It is actually kind of satisfying to earn my own money. After his father left, Minho sat down heavily on a stool. I cannot believe that just happened. People can change, Jimin said. When they see the truth, they can change. Your father saw your work and realized that his idea of success was not the only valid one. I thought I would have to fight him forever. Sometimes the hardest battles end the moment we stop fighting and start showing. You showed him who you are through your work. That is more powerful than any argument. The final month before the show was intense. Every day was dedicated to perfecting the motorcycles. Every detail mattered. Every part had to work flawlessly. Every surface had to be pristine. They worked longer hours. They skipped social events. They dreamed about motorcycles. They were obsessed, but in a good way. They were creating something they could be proud of. 1 week before the show, disaster struck. The shop had a small fire. A spark from welding landed in some oily rags that had been left out. The fire spread quickly before anyone noticed. By the time they got it out, 3 of the 5 motorcycles had water damage from the fire extinguishers and sprinklers. Taeyang's bike had water in the gas tank and electrical system. Junho's bike had water damage to the newly finished paint. Sora's carefully painted bodywork had water spots and would need to be completely redone. Everyone stood there in shock, looking at the damage. Months of work, possibly ruined. The show was in 1 week. There was no way they could fix everything in time. Sora started crying. It is over. We cannot fix all this in a week. We cannot. Junho looked devastated. Taeyang was just staring at his bike in disbelief. But Minho stepped forward. "We can do this." "How?" Sora asked. "Look at this damage. It is impossible." "Nothing is impossible. It is just hard. And we have done hard things before." Minho looked at Jimin. "You told me that together we are stronger than we are apart. That was true for my bike. It is true now. If we all work together, if we focus everything on these 3 bikes, we can fix them." Jimin felt a surge of pride. Minho had grown so much. He is right. We have 1 week. We will work around the clock if we have to. We will call in every favor, use every resource. These motorcycles will be at that show, and they will be perfect. The teenagers looked at each other. Then they nodded. "Let's do this," Taeyang said. They worked through the night, assessing the damage. In the morning, they made a plan. They divided tasks. They set goals for each day. They committed to not sleeping until the bikes were done. The next 7 days were the hardest of their lives. They worked 16-hour days. They ate meals in the shop. Minho and Jimin, who lived above the shop, barely saw their beds. The others crashed on couches and sleeping bags when they could not keep their eyes open anymore. The town rallied behind them. When word got out about the fire, people started showing up to help. Mr. Kim brought food every day. Mrs. Lee from the bakery brought coffee and pastries every morning. Other mechanics from nearby shops came by after their own work to offer help and advice. Mr. Song, the old racer, came by to provide encouragement and wisdom. Minho's father showed up one evening with pizza and stayed to help however he could. Even though he did not know anything about motorcycles, he cleaned tools, organized parts, and kept the workspace tidy so the teenagers could focus on repairs. Taeyang's family came by. For the first time, they saw what their son was capable of. They saw the skill in his hands, the knowledge in his head, the dedication in his work. His mother cried watching him work. "I had no idea," she said to Jimin. "I did not know he could do all this." "He always could," Jimin replied. "He just needed a chance to show it." By Wednesday, Taeyang's bike was fixed. The electrical system was dried out and tested. The gas tank was cleaned. Everything worked perfectly. By Friday morning, Junho's paint was redone. It actually looked better than before because they had learned from the mistakes made the first time. Friday evening came. The show was Saturday morning. Sora's bike still needed work. The bodywork had to be sanded again, the base coat reapplied, and her intricate design repainted. There were only 12 hours left. "I cannot do it," Sora said. She was exhausted. They all were. "There is not enough time. Maybe I should just not enter the show." "Yes, you can," Jimin said firmly. "And I am going to help you. We all are." The whole team gathered around Sora's bike. Jimin handled the base coat while Sora rested for 2 hours. Then Sora started on the design work with Jimin guiding her. The others cleaned up the shop and prepared all 5 bikes for transport. At 4 in the morning, Sora painted the final detail. She stepped back and looked at her work. It was beautiful. Maybe even better than before because she had done it under pressure, and it had still turned out perfectly. They loaded all 5 motorcycles into a borrowed trailer. The sun was coming up. The show started in 4 hours. "We did it," Taeyang said. He sounded amazed. "We actually did it." "No," Minho corrected. "We did not just do it. We did it together, and that makes it even better." They all went home to shower and change. In 3 hours, they would meet at the regional motorcycle show. Their work would be on display. Their skills would be judged. Their story would be told. But win or lose, they had already achieved something more important. They had proven to themselves that they could overcome anything if they worked together. And that was worth more than any trophy. The regional motorcycle show was held in a large convention center about an hour from their town. When Jimin and the teenagers arrived with their 5 motorcycles, the place was already crowded. There were hundreds of motorcycles on display, from vintage classics to modern custom builds. The teenagers looked around nervously. The other bikes looked professional, really professional. Some were restored by shops with decades of experience. Others were built by individual craftsmen who had been doing this their whole lives. "We do not belong here," Juno whispered. Look at these bikes. They are incredible. So are yours, Jimin said firmly. You built these with your own hands. You learned skills from scratch. You overcame setbacks. Your bikes have a story. That matters. They unloaded the motorcycles and set them up in their assigned space. The show organizers had given them spots in the youth restoration category. When other exhibitors saw the bikes, they started coming over to look. An older man with gray hair examined Taeyang's red motorcycle closely. He looked at the welds, checked the paint, and inspected the engine work. Did you really do all this yourself? He asked Taeyang. Yes, sir. Well, I had help from my friends and my teacher when I got stuck, but I did most of the work. How old are you? 17. The man shook his head in amazement. When I was 17, I could barely change a tire. This is impressive work, son. Really impressive. Taeyang beamed. Thank you. More people came by. They asked questions about the restorations. They wanted to know how long each bike took, what the biggest challenges were, and where the teenagers learned their skills. Sora's bike drew a lot of attention because of the unique paint design. People took photos. Some asked if she did commission work. One woman from a custom paint shop gave Sora her business card. If you ever want a summer job or an apprenticeship, call me, the woman said. We need artists with your skill and creativity. Sora held the card like it was made of gold. A real professional thought she was good enough to hire. It felt like a dream. Around noon, the judges came through. There were 3 of them, all experienced in motorcycle restoration and customization. They spent at least 15 minutes looking at each of the 5 bikes. They asked detailed questions. They checked everything carefully. Jimin stood back and let the teenagers answer. This was their moment, their achievement. She was just the teacher who had given them tools and knowledge. They had done the real work. After the judges moved on, the teenagers regrouped. They were nervous and excited. What do you think? Dihan asked. Do we have a chance? I think we already won, Jimin said. Look around you. Look at what you have accomplished. 6 months ago, you were angry kids who used motorcycles to run away from your problems. Now you are skilled craftspeople who build motorcycles to move toward your dreams. That is the real victory. Minho nodded. She is right. Whether we win a trophy or not, we know what we can do now. Nobody can take that away from us. The afternoon passed slowly. They walked around looking at other motorcycles. They met other builders and restorers. They learned about different techniques and approaches. It was like a massive education in motorcycle culture. At 4 o'clock, the announcements began. There were many categories: best custom build, best vintage restoration, best paint, best engine work, and many more. The youth restoration category was announced last. The teenagers held hands, nervous and excited. Third place goes to entry number 47, a 1975 Honda CB550, restored by Marcus Chen. Everyone clapped. The teenagers held their breath. Second place goes to entry number 52, a 1982 Yamaha SR400, restored by Taeyang Min. Taeyang let out a shout of excitement. Second place. He went up to accept his trophy, grinning so wide his face hurt. And first place in youth restoration goes to entry number 58, a 1988 Kawasaki GPZ 600 restored by Sora Kang. Sora gasped. She looked at Jimin in disbelief. Jimin pushed her gently toward the stage. Go get your trophy. You earned it. Sora walked to the stage in a daze. She accepted the first place trophy and looked out at the crowd. She saw her mother in the audience. Her mother was crying and smiling at the same time. After the announcement, they learned about the other awards. Junho received an honorable mention for his welding work. Daehan's bike was praised in the judges' comments for its fabrication quality. And Minho's bike, while it did not win in the youth category, caught the attention of a collector who asked if it was for sale. How much do you want for it? The collector asked. Minho looked at his motorcycle. He had spent 5 months rebuilding it. He had learned so much. He had poured his heart into every detail. It is not for sale, he said. This is the first thing I ever really accomplished on my own. I am keeping it. The collector smiled. I understand. But if you ever change your mind, here is my card. That is quality work. As they packed up to leave, a man in a suit approached Jimin. He introduced himself as the director of the Regional Technical College. I saw your students work today, he said. I read the article about your apprenticeship program. I would like to talk to you about teaching some classes at our college. We need instructors who understand how to reach young people and help them develop real skills. Jimin was surprised. I am not a certified teacher. No, but you are an excellent mentor, and you have something more valuable than a teaching certificate. You have passion, and you get results. Think about it. We can discuss details next week if you are interested. He gave her his card and walked away. Jimin stared at the card. Teaching at a college? 6 months ago, she was struggling to keep her shop open. Now she was being asked to teach? On the drive home, the teenagers were loud and excited. They talked about the show, the people they met, the compliments they received. They passed around the trophies and took silly photos with them. But Minho was quiet. He sat in the back of the truck, looking thoughtful. What are you thinking about? Jimin asked him when they stopped for gas. I am thinking about what happens next, he said. The project is done. We finished it, so what now? It was a good question. Jimin had been thinking about the same thing. When they got back to the shop, everyone helped unload the motorcycles. They set them up inside, displayed proudly. The shop looked amazing with all 5 restored bikes on display. So, Taeyang said, what do we do now? Do we just go back to regular repairs, or is the apprenticeship over? Jimin had given this a lot of thought over the past few weeks. She had a plan. I have some news. Actually, several pieces of news. Everyone gathered around. First, I have been offered a teaching position at the technical college. I am going to accept it. I will teach 2 classes a week. The teenagers clapped and congratulated her. Second, because I will be busier with teaching, I need more help running the shop. I am promoting all 5 of you from apprentices to junior mechanics, real positions with better pay and actual responsibilities. More excitement. More celebration. Third, the local businessman who saw our work at the show has offered to invest in expanding the shop. He wants to turn it into a full training center for young people who want to learn motorcycle mechanics. I said yes. What does that mean? Sora asked. It means we are going to do what we did with you but bigger. We are going to take in more apprentices, teach more young people, create more opportunities, and you 5 are going to help me teach them. Us? Teach? Junho looked uncertain. We are still learning ourselves. That is what makes you perfect for teaching, Jimin said. You remember what it was like to not know anything. You remember the struggles and the breakthroughs. You can connect with new students in ways I cannot, and you will keep learning while you teach. That is how it works. Minho stepped forward. I think I speak for all of us when I say thank you. Thank you for not giving up on us. Thank you for seeing something in us that we did not see in ourselves. Thank you for changing our lives. You changed your own lives, Jimin said. I just gave you the tools and the space to do it. You did all the hard work. Still, Minho said. Thank you. They stood there in the shop, surrounded by motorcycles and tools and the evidence of their hard work. 6 months ago, they had been enemies. Now they were family. That evening, after everyone went home, Jimin walked up to her apartment. She was exhausted but happy. She looked at the photo of her father on the wall. I did it, Dad, she said quietly. I saved the shop. But more than that, I helped some kids find their way. Just like you helped me. I think you would be proud. She could almost hear his voice in her mind. I am proud. I always was. The next week, preparations for the expansion began. The businessman's investment allowed them to rent the space next door. They knocked down the wall between the 2 buildings, creating a much larger workshop. They bought more tools, more equipment, more workspace. Applications for the new apprenticeship program started coming in. Young people from all over the region wanted to learn. Some were like Minho and his friends had been, troubled and looking for direction. Others were just passionate about motorcycles and wanted to develop their skills. Jimin and the 5 junior mechanics interviewed applicants together. They chose 15 new apprentices for the first class. The group was diverse. Different ages, different backgrounds, different reasons for wanting to learn. On the first day of the new program, Jimin stood in front of the expanded shop with the 5 junior mechanics beside her. The 15 new apprentices looked nervous and excited. "Welcome," Jimin said. "You are here because you want to learn. Some of you want to become professional mechanics. Some just want to understand how motorcycles work. Some are looking for purpose or direction. All of those reasons are valid." She gestured to the 5 junior mechanics. "These 5 were my first apprentices. 6 months ago, they did not know how to change oil. Now they can rebuild an entire motorcycle from scratch. They will be helping me teach you. Listen to them. They were where you are now. They know what you are going through." Minho stepped forward. "The first thing you need to know is that this will be hard. Really hard. You will get frustrated. You will make mistakes. You will want to quit. But if you stick with it, if you push through the hard parts, you will discover something amazing. You will discover what you are capable of." Sora spoke next. "You will also discover that you are not alone. We are a team here. When one person struggles, we all help. When one person succeeds, we all celebrate. That is how this works," Taeyang added. "And you will learn that motorcycles are not just machines. They are teachers. They teach patience, precision, respect, and persistence. If you let them, they will teach you about yourself too." Jimin smiled. Her first apprentices had become teachers. They understood what she had been trying to show them all along. "Okay," she said, "let's get started. First lesson, how to organize a workspace and respect your tools." As the new apprentices got to work, Jimin watched with satisfaction. This was what her father had wanted. Not just a shop that fixed motorcycles, but a place that fixed lives. A place where people could discover their potential and build something meaningful. The 5 junior mechanics moved among the new apprentices, patient and encouraging. They answered questions. They demonstrated techniques. They shared their own stories of struggle and triumph. Jimin thought about how far they had all come. How Minho had gone from an arrogant troublemaker to a dedicated craftsman and teacher. How Taeyang had gone from feeling invisible to being confident and skilled. How Sora had found her artistic voice. How Junho and Daihan had discovered their strengths. And how she herself had gone from a woman barely keeping her father's shop alive to someone who was building something bigger than she had ever imagined. That evening, as the sun set and everyone finished cleaning up for the day, Minho came to Jimin. "I enrolled in engineering school," he said. "I start in the fall. I want to design motorcycles, but I will keep working here part-time. This place, this community, it is part of who I am now." "That is wonderful," Jimin said. "Your father must be proud." "He is. We have dinner together now once a week. We talk about real things. It is different. Better." Minho paused. "I never thanked you properly. You saved my life. You really did." "No," Jimin said gently. "You saved your own life. You made the choice to change. You did the work. I just provided the opportunity." "Well, thank you for the opportunity then." As Minho walked away, Jimin looked around the shop. It was full of people learning, growing, and becoming better versions of themselves. This was the legacy her father had really left her. Not just a shop, but a purpose. Not just skills, but wisdom. She had been so afraid of losing the shop, but in fighting to save it, she had transformed it into something much more valuable. A place where people found themselves. A place where broken things became whole. A place where second chances turned into new beginnings. And that was worth more than anything she could have imagined. 6 months after the motorcycle show, Jimin stood in the expanded shop watching the morning routine. 20 people were working at different stations. Some were new apprentices learning basic skills. Others were advanced students working on complex projects. The 5 junior mechanics moved among them, teaching and guiding. The transformation was complete. What had started as a struggling one-person shop was now a thriving training center. The business was successful. The reputation was strong. Most importantly, lives were being changed. Jimin taught 2 classes a week at the technical college. just as she had promised. Her classes were always full. Students appreciated her practical approach and her focus on real skills. The college wanted her to teach more classes, but she refused. The shop was her priority. One morning in early spring, Jimin received an unexpected phone call. It was from a national television program that featured inspiring stories about small businesses and community programs. "We heard about your apprenticeship program," the producer said. "We would like to feature your story on our show. It is exactly the kind of positive, uplifting content we look for." Jimin was hesitant. She did not like attention. She preferred to work quietly and let the results speak for themselves. But the producer was persistent. "Think about how many more young people you could reach if your story was shared nationally. Think about how many other shop owners might be inspired to create similar programs." That changed Jimin's mind. If sharing her story could help create more opportunities for young people elsewhere, it was worth the discomfort of being on television. The film crew came the following week. They interviewed Jimin, the 5 junior mechanics, and some of the new apprentices. They filmed everyone working. They captured the energy and community feeling of the shop. Minyo's father agreed to be interviewed too. He talked about how his son had changed and how it had changed his relationship with him. "I almost lost my son because I could not see past my own expectations," he said. Jimin helped him find himself, and in the process she helped me see what really matters. Not success by society's definition, but purpose and fulfillment by your own. When the episode aired 2 months later, the response was overwhelming. Jimin's phone did not stop ringing. Emails flooded in. People from all over the country wanted to know how to start similar programs. Shop owners wanted advice. Parents wanted to enroll their children. But one email stood out. It was from the mother of a teenage girl named Hana who lived 3 hours away. The email explained that Hana was struggling. She had dropped out of school. She was depressed and angry. She had no direction and no hope. "I read about your program and I thought maybe you could help," the mother wrote. "I know you are far away and probably have too many students already, but I am desperate. My daughter is lost, and I do not know how to reach her." Jimin wrote back immediately. "Bring her to visit, let's talk." 2 days later, Hana and her mother came to the shop. Hana was 16, with dyed black hair and multiple piercings. She slouched in her chair and would not make eye contact. She looked exactly like Minho had looked 6 months ago, angry, defensive, and hiding deep pain. "Hana, why are you here?" Jimin asked gently. "My mom made me come." "What do you think about motorcycles?" "I do not know. I guess they are okay." "Do you ride?" "No." "Do you want to learn?" Hana shrugged, but Jimin saw a flicker of interest in her eyes. "Come with me," Jimin said. She led Hana out to the workshop. "See these motorcycles? They were all broken. Completely broken. Most people looked at them and saw junk. But my students saw possibility. They saw something that could be fixed. Something that could be beautiful again." Hana looked at the motorcycles. Her expression softened slightly. "You know what I see when I look at you?" Jimin asked. "What?" "Possibility. Not a broken person, not a lost cause, but someone with potential who just needs the right opportunity to discover it." Hana's eyes filled with tears. "You do not know me." "You are right. I do not know your whole story, but I know what it is like to feel lost and angry. I know what it is like to need something to focus on, something to care about, something that makes you feel capable, Sora walked over. She had overheard the conversation. "I was like you," she said to Hana. "I hated everything. I hated my life. I hated my mom's expectations. I felt trapped. But working on motorcycles gave me a way to channel all that anger into something productive. Something beautiful." Hana looked at Sora. "Really?" "Really. I am not saying it will be easy. It was not easy for me. But it was worth it." Hana turned to her mother. "Can I try? Can I come here?" Her mother started crying. "Yes, of course, if they will have you. If they will." "We will have you," Jimin said. "But you have to commit, you have to show up, you have to do the work. I cannot fix you. Only you can do that. But I can give you tools and knowledge and support. The rest is up to you. Okay, Hannah said. I will try. Hannah started the following week. Like the others before her, she began with cleaning and organizing. She learned tool names and safety procedures. She learned patience and precision. It was hard for her. She got frustrated easily. She wanted to quit several times. But every time she was about to give up, one of the junior mechanics would step in. They shared their own stories of struggle. They showed her that frustration was part of the process. They taught her that mistakes were opportunities to learn. Slowly, Hannah began to change. She started smiling occasionally. She made friends with the other apprentices. She discovered that she had a natural talent for diagnostics, the ability to figure out what was wrong with a motorcycle, just by listening and observing. 3 months after Hannah started, her mother came to visit. She cried when she saw her daughter working confidently on a motorcycle, laughing with friends, looking genuinely happy. "Thank you," she said to Jimin. "You gave me my daughter back." "I did not give her back," Jimin corrected gently. "She found herself. She just needed the right environment to do it." As the year progressed, the shop continued to grow. More success stories emerged. More lives were changed. The 5 original junior mechanics became senior mechanics and took on even more teaching responsibilities. Taeyang opened a small satellite shop in the next town over, using what he had learned from Jimin. He ran it with the same philosophy: quality work, patient teaching, and community building. Sora got accepted into engineering school with a focus on automotive design. She continued to work part-time at the shop, teaching the art of custom paint and design. Junho and Daehan became the shop's business managers. They handled scheduling, customer relations, and the administrative side of running the training program. Minho excelled in engineering school and was already being recruited by motorcycle manufacturers who had heard about his work. But he kept his promise. He worked at the shop every weekend, teaching and mentoring new students. One evening, as Jimin was closing up the shop, she found an envelope on her desk. Inside was a letter from the mayor and the city council. They were honoring her with a community service award for her work with young people. The ceremony would be in 2 weeks. Jimin smiled, but she felt conflicted. She did not do this for awards or recognition. She did it because it mattered. Because her father had taught her that passing on knowledge was the highest calling. On the night of the ceremony, Jimin stood on stage looking out at the crowd. All her students were there, current and former. Their families were there. Community members who had supported the program were there. Mr. Kim, Mrs. Lee, Mr. Song, and so many others who had been part of this journey. When it was time for her speech, Jimin kept it simple. "I want to thank everyone who supported this program, but I especially want to thank my students. You trusted me with your time and your potential. You did the hard work. You changed yourselves. I was just lucky enough to witness it and help where I could." She looked at Minho and his friends. "When 5 teenagers came to my shop a year ago trying to ruin my business, I could have fought them or run away. Instead, I challenged them, and they accepted that challenge. They showed up, they did the work, they transformed. And in transforming themselves, they transformed my shop and my life." She paused, emotion threatening to overwhelm her. "My father taught me that motorcycles are not just machines. They are bridges. Bridges to understanding. Bridges to skill. Bridges to purpose. Bridges to who we want to become. Every person who has walked through these doors has crossed that bridge, and I am honored to have helped them make that journey." The crowd stood and applauded. Jimin accepted her award, but she knew the real reward was standing in the audience. It was in the faces of young people who had found their way. It was in the community that had been built. It was in the legacy her father had left and she had expanded. After the ceremony, Jimin went back to the shop. She stood in the quiet space, surrounded by tools and motorcycles. Tomorrow, 20 students would come through the door. They would learn and struggle and grow, and she would be there to guide them just as her father had guided her. She walked to the back of the shop where her father's motorcycle was displayed. She had finally finished restoring it, with help from Minho. It sat there, beautiful and whole, a tribute to the man who had taught her everything. "I kept your dream alive, Dad," she whispered. "But I made it bigger. I made it about more than just fixing motorcycles. I made it about fixing lives, about giving people a chance to discover who they are and what they can do. I think that is what you really wanted all along." The next morning, Jimin opened the shop at her usual time. The first to arrive was Hana, who now came early every day to help set up. She was followed by other students, each eager to continue their projects. Minho came in, ready for his weekend shift. Sora arrived with coffee for everyone. Taeyang drove in from his new shop to help teach an advanced class. Junho and Daihan were already at their desks, planning the week's schedule. The shop filled with the sounds of work, engines running, tools clanking, people talking and laughing. It was the sound of learning, the sound of growth, the sound of community. Jimin looked around at everything she had built, everything they had built together. From nearly losing her shop to creating a thriving training center. From 5 angry teenagers to a whole community of skilled craftspeople. From loneliness and grief to purpose and connection. Her father's motorcycle shop had become something more. It had become a place where people found themselves, where broken things became whole, where anger turned into purpose, where loss became legacy. A new apprentice, nervous and uncertain, approached Jimin. "Where do I start?" he asked. Jimin smiled. She had answered this question so many times. But it never got old, because every time she answered, she was passing on her father's gift. She was giving someone the tools to build their future. "You start by learning respect," she said. "Respect for the workspace, respect for the tools, respect for the machine, respect for yourself. Come on, I will show you." As she walked the new apprentice through the shop, explaining and demonstrating, Jimin felt deep satisfaction. This was her purpose. This was her father's true legacy. Not a shop that fixed motorcycles, but a community that built people. The sun streamed through the windows, lighting up the workspace. Motorcycles in various states of repair filled the bays. Students worked with focus and determination. Teachers guided with patience and wisdom. This was more than a shop. It was a home, a family, a place where everyone belonged and everyone mattered. And it all started because 5 teenagers tried to ruin a mechanic girl's shop, and she chose to see their potential instead of their problems. She chose to teach instead of fight. She chose to build instead of destroy. In doing so, she had not only changed their lives, she had changed her own. She had discovered that the greatest skill was not fixing motorcycles. It was helping people discover what they were capable of. And that, Jimin realized, was the most valuable thing her father had taught her. Not how to repair engines or adjust carburetors, but how to see potential in others and give them the chance to become who they were meant to be. That was the real story. That was the real victory. And it was only the beginning.